Hi again, and welcome to the America Saves Challenge Twitter chat and Google Hangout. I hope you're joining the conversation already at the hashtag EXASChat. I'm Bob Birch from North Dakota State University, and I'm going to be your moderator for this Google Hangout. Our guests today are Dr. Barb O'Neill from Rutgers University, Ricky McWilliams and Elaine Courtney from the University of Florida, and Katie Bryan from the America Saves program. You will also hear from Eric Anderson at the University of Idaho as he's monitoring our social media and our Twitter chat today, and we'll be sharing some of the good stuff that you're sharing online throughout the Hangout. So this Twitter chat and Hangout are to celebrate America Saves Week and kick off the America Saves Financial Challenge. We'll be talking more about that in just a couple of minutes. I want to remind you that the funding for the preparation and gift card prizes for the chat was provided by an America Saves Week mini grant to eXtension from the Consumer Federation of America with funding from the Bank of America Charitable Foundation. So let's get started with our conversation, and we'll start with you, Ricky. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is the America Saves Challenge?
The America Saves Financial Challenge is a 5-week program that is hosted through the the Rutgers University website, their Small Steps to Health and Wealth website. It is a free challenge open to all individuals, so whether you're in great financial shape or you're desperately trying to figure out how to manage your money, it's for everyone. You can go online and log your positive financial behavior, and by logging those financial behaviors, you can earn points and possibly earn prizes. So again, it is a free online challenge, February 22nd through March 28th. And although it has already started, there's a 7-day grace period for logging your financial actions. So the last day to sign up for this online challenge is going to be Friday, February 27th.
Elaine, can you tell us a little bit about what happens after you register? What can we expect sort of day to day if you're participating in the America Saves Challenge?
Sure. Well, once you register for the challenge, then several things are going to happen. As Ricky said, you can report your daily actions, and you can go on to the Rutgers University Small Steps to Health and Wealth site, and that's the host of the financial challenge. You can do that daily, but you want to do it at least within 7 days of completing that financial action. One of the things we know about savings is that it's helpful for us to get gentle reminders to continue those positive financial actions. And we do that by sending you daily motivational messages reminding you to log in and record it, as well as giving you a tip for the day.
Great. So, Barb, let's hear from you. What's one of the things that we can do to help, start saving money?
Well, I think the most important thing is if you can set a goal. And America Saves has a great tagline that I use all the time, giving them full credit, of course, and that's set a goal, make a plan, save automatically. So I think it's a combination of those three things. You need to know what you're saving for, because if you don't have a goal and you're just saving for saving's sake, that's not very motivational. That's not going to cause you to want to give up spending money today for no defined purpose. So you need to set a goal, and then of course come up with some kind of action plan, which may involve having savings sucked out of your paycheck or other ways of saving on a regular basis. Maybe you are in a credit union and the credit union is affiliated with your job and you can have money taken out of your paycheck that way. And then again, the save automatically piece is just the fact that research has shown that if people don't have to make those savings decisions over and over because they've locked a savings strategy into place, either through their paycheck or through automated transfers, maybe through their bank or credit union, they're transferring money from checking into savings. That is just a really great way to save because, again, it takes the willpower out of the equation and it just gets done automatically on a regular schedule.
Katie, are there certain places where people seem to get tripped up on savings, or are there other strategies that Barb didn't mention that you might want to recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think people get tripped up on saving when they know they're supposed to and they know it's important to set an amount, or they'll get confused like, well, how many percent should I save, or how much do you recommend I should be saving? And I don't think it's not a set number for everybody. You know, I think like Barb said, you got to start with something. I would pick more of an amount you want to save as opposed to, oh, I should be saving 5%. You know, pick that. What's that goal? How much do you want to save towards that goal? And I agree. I think the automatic ways of saving, if you can kind of set it and forget it, set a goal, make a plan, save automatically. If you can kind of go through those three things, it's a nice guide for where you should be going with your savings.
Great. So, Ricky, maybe you can start us off with our next question, which is, what's the one single best thing people can do to save money?
A lot of times what I talk about with participants and clientele is make their savings into a bill, a monthly expense. So it goes back to support Barb and Katie, but making a bill of paying yourself first. So you've got a list of bills, whether it's your electricity bill, your cable bill, your mortgage, whatever. You should have another bill on your monthly expenses, PYF. And that seems to help a lot of people just get in the routine of either writing a check out to themselves, having money transferred into an account that they don't have as easy of access to as their checking account, so their debit card just can't get ran to spend that money. But paying yourself first is definitely one of the easiest ways to make that automatic and to make that a regular part of your payments and your expenses.
And just so people know, that's my mistake saying we're going to move to the next question and then asking the same question over again. So you're not in some kind of weird video loop where you're hearing me ask the same question over and over again. That's my mistake. But I'm glad we stuck on it, because I think we're seeing some feedback on Twitter to some of these questions. And Eric, I'm not sure if you have tweets you want to share yet.
Yes, we have a couple of good responses already to the first question. One is from Scott Madison, who says, a good approach, best single thing people can do to save money is have the discipline to tell yourself no when it comes to the wants, and then put money in savings. We also have another good response from Sasha Grabenstetter, and she believes one of the best ways to save money is to eat more meals at home. And that's good advice. We try to follow it in my home as well, and often you can have good or better meals at home than you can have eating out.
Great, thanks Eric for sharing those responses from Twitter. I want to remind people that if you want to contribute to the conversation, you can do so on Twitter using the hashtag EXASChat. That's the America Saves Challenge chat hashtag that we're using for today's conversation. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Finally, I got to it. And that is, where's the best place to put savings dollars today? Katie, why don't you start us off on that one?
I think it depends on what you're saving for, but I think for just general saving, I think a savings account or at a bank or a share account at a credit union are tough to beat. I mean, your money's safe there, it's secure there. You can set up that automatic transfer into that type of account, so part of your paycheck automatically can go into one of those accounts. The other way you could fund an account like that is doing an automatic transfer from your checking account to that account. So, you know, if you don't want to work with your employer to get that set up, go to your bank or credit union, ask them to deposit, you know, $10 from your check into your savings every month, and you have that great automatic way. But I'll kind of leave some of the other options for others, but I think just a basic FDIC insured savings account is a really great place to save your money.
Elaine, do you have thoughts on that question?
Well, I'll go back to something Ricky said, and that is have a savings account either at your local bank or credit union, but I think it's helpful if you don't have as easy of an access to that money. So sometimes, depending on a person's self-discipline, if they set up a savings account at a different credit union or bank, that they don't have an ATM card, but yet maybe they can get their employer to put money into that account through automatic withdrawals. I think that can sometimes be a motivator for people, and perhaps not as tempting to make that savings account one of those put and take accounts where you put it in but then you take it out almost immediately. Once you've accumulated some things in your savings account or share account, then I think you might look at putting some of those money into a certificate of deposit.
Well, I can definitely echo experience on the put and take account. With online banking, it's so easy just to transfer that money back into a checking account or to spend it in some other way. So those are great suggestions. Barb, what do you think about the best place to put savings dollars today? I know Elaine mentioned certificate of deposit, and I think a lot of us, when we're thinking about savings, are thinking, well, geez, just putting in a savings account, am I really making my money work for me? And we hear a lot, in the media about how we need to make our money work for us. What do you think about places to put your money today?
Well, I think you have to shop around. I teach my students at Rutgers something called the Rule of 72, which you figure out how long it takes to double a sum of money by dividing the interest rate into 72. So if you're getting a half of 1%, it's going to take you 144 years to double a sum of money. So you definitely want to do better than that. But savings provides the stepping stone to investing, so you have to start somewhere. And even though those rates might be relatively low today, there still are some things that you can do. Certainly shop around. As Katie mentioned, you might want to check with a credit union if you have access to one, possibly an online bank. Certainly check around different brick and mortar banks. I'm a big fan of the Rule of 70, the Rule of 3 rather. I had the Rule of 72 before, where you check out at least 3 different sources for any product or service that you're going to purchase. So I have my students do that as a class assignment, and they check out a couple banks and credit unions and take a look at the best rates. Also, I'd recommend laddering for certificates of deposit. So CDs generally have maturities ranging from maybe 3 months or 6 months on the low side, all the way up to maybe 5 years or even longer for the longer maturities. And I recommend, if you have a sum of money, let's say you had $5,000, for example, instead of putting $5,000 in one CD with one interest rate, you take $1,000 and put it into 5 different CDs with different maturities and different interest rates. And I'll give you a personal example. I still have a CD from a ladder that I did back in 2011 with some money that I inherited from my mom, and that CD is getting close to 3%, which of course is unavailable in most banks today, probably all banks today. So by laddering, what you do is you hedge the interest rate risk, because we all know interest rates will probably go up, but we don't know when. So if you have a ladder, you'll have some interest rates that are maybe higher than the current market rates, but then on the other hand, when interest rates do go back up, you'll be able to take the CDs as they mature and reinvest them in those higher interest rates. So it's just a hedging strategy and a good way to divide up your money so it's not just in one CD.
Is there an amount that you should look at having saved before you sort of look at other places besides a savings account to put your money?
I think most financial advisors will recommend an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months expenses, and you'd want to keep that in a place where you would have liquidity, which means you'll be able to take your money out without any loss of principal. So you definitely want to get a good base of money, probably in a short-term CD, a money market fund, or a money market deposit account at a bank. Something like that you can tap into very quickly. And then once you have that base, you can think about longer-term CDs, bonds, stocks, mutual funds, things of that sort.
Great. Eric, I'm seeing some tweets come in. Are there particular ones that that you want to highlight?
A couple good ones from the second question. Where to put the best place to put your savings dollars that you've been talking about. One from Consumer Action, which emphasized the need to make sure your savings accounts are FDIC insured or that have some kind of insurance and protection. And then a second one I thought was notable from Leslie H. Tain, Esquire, said that ideally your savings should first go towards an emergency fund, then look at retirement afterwards, which is always good advice to make sure you have your cushion in place.
I saw a tweet come across recommending that you maybe create some kind of jar or shadow box to visualize your goal. Katie, what do you think of that suggestion?
Yeah, I think sharing that goal, putting that goal in a place where you're going to see it every day is definitely a really great motivation. We did a contest this year. You could use hashtag I'm saving for and take a picture of yourself, either holding your goal or, some people can put their goal behind them if it's like a trip, if you have, awesome Photoshop skills. But I think if you can really visualize your goal, you're a lot more effective in reaching it.
Great. So this is the America Saves Challenge Twitter chat and Google Hangout. I'm Bob Birch. A reminder that our guests today are Dr. Barb O'Neill from Rutgers University, Ricky McWilliams and Elaine Courtney from the University of Florida, and Katie Bryan from the America Saves program. Eric Anderson of the University of Idaho is monitoring our social media for us. And so if you do want to share your thoughts, please go to Twitter and use the hashtag EXASChat, and Eric will find those for you, and hopefully we'll be able to share them on our Hangout. So let's go to the next question here, and that is resources. What are some good books, websites, other resources for saving money? Ricky, do you have a recommendation on any of those, I guess?
I would highly recommend the americasaves.org website. They house a tremendous amount of information and have incredible resources. Katie does an awesome job getting all the information in one place. So if you haven't started anywhere, that's a great place to start, americasaves.org.
Okay, Katie. So Ricky made it so you didn't have to recommend your own website. So you have other resources, maybe outside of America Saves, that people can go for help in saving money.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite ones besides americasaves.org are people who share their personal story, and it's maybe not, a lot of people give financial advice and that kind of stuff, but I like people who kind of say, this is what I did, this is how I did it, and, if you want to copy me, great, if not. So there's Mr. Money Mustache, there's Budgets Are Sexy, there are a few along that line, and I just think they're really just fun to hear real stories about, wow, I didn't get to eat lunch out for 4 years, but guess what? I paid off $40,000 in student loan debt. So I think those kinds of websites, sometimes they don't provide as much of the basics unless you go way back in their blogs, but I think it's just nice to travel on this journey with some real people. And I think America Saves is really great for getting the basics and where do I save and how do I save, but getting those personal stories just always are really motivating for me, and I follow a lot of those.
Barb, are there resources that you'd recommend?
Well, I want to mention our eXtension personal finance page, and I'll put the link up in just a minute on the Twitter chat. I think we've got a really great compilation of resources from land-grant universities around the country. Another good source of information is mymoney.gov, and that's where I believe it's 20 or 21 different federal agencies have come together. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for information from all of those agencies. I think they have it organized kind of by topic areas. They've got 5 key areas of personal finance, and you'll find things from Federal Reserve, Securities and Exchange Commission, of course, Cooperative Extension, any government agency, Treasury Department that's involved in any aspect of personal finance, FDIC. I mean, just a lot of government agencies are doing work in personal finance. So I think that's really important too. And I put a link out on the Twitter feed to the 1% More Savings Calculator that's actually on the New York Times website, and I just love that because it shows you with the click of a mouse how saving just 1% more of your income would translate into additional savings later on in life. So I find that's a really helpful resource to motivate people to save.
Elaine, do you have any other resources that you'd like to mention?
Well, I love the eExtension site. I think wherever you are around the country, you can also, your local land-grant university, whether it's University of Georgia, University of Florida, Auburn, wherever. Of course, we're in the South, so or Rutgers in New Jersey. But those will also have some research-based information that I think is helpful. Another one that I refer people to a lot is powerpay.org. Like the savings calculator Barb mentioned, it is a way for people to look at their debt and then kind of envision what would happen if I paid $50 more. And for people that are battling debt as well as trying to save money, sometimes that's a double-edged sword, and people will find that website helpful as well.
Eric, I noticed that Sasha, and I'll pull up her tweet here, mentioned powerpay.org that Elaine mentioned. Are there other suggestions coming in from Twitter that we'd like to share?
Yes, there have. Actually, several have mentioned the powerpay.org site. Several have mentioned different apps that are available, and a lot of folks are probably familiar with those. Acorn and Mint were mentioned. And then there was a tweet from Angelica who mentioned that she enjoys reading articles on money.com. So there are general media sites available as well that are a good resource.
Hey Barb, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Acorn app was mentioned and Mint.com. Some of us have access to these budgeting and savings apps on our phones. What do you think of those?
Well, personally, I don't use them. Maybe I'm a little old school on that, but one thing I do use on my phone as an app is just a finance app that gives me at the end of every trading day, the price of, the net asset value of my mutual fund shares. It gives me, I have it programmed in to give me the Standard & Poor's 500, how that did for the day, how the Dow Jones did for the day, and then one stock that I own, how that has done for the day as well. So that works for me. I just kind of like to see how things are doing and kind of look at how the market behaved and how my own individual investments behaved. I think the important thing is that people find tools that work for them. And some people prefer paper and pencil, some people prefer spreadsheets, some people prefer phone apps. Whatever works, you find tools that are good for you and start using them if they can help you with your finances.
Katie, what do you think about these smartphone apps or online tools and helping out with savings?
Yeah, I do personally use Mint.com. I thoroughly enjoy it. It really takes all of my accounts, puts them in one place, so I can see what are my credit cards at this month and what are my savings at this month. I will say I tried out the Acorns app and I thought it was a really ingenious idea. The fee structure, I'll warn, is a little high, so it rolls over. Money you're spending, it rolls it up, kind of like the Bank of America account they had, but it rolls up your spending and then dumps it into this account. And so I'll say after a month, I don't spend a lot of money, or I guess I don't make a lot of transactions. So I transfer $10 in, and then we have these $1 a month fee, and that ends up being kind of 10% of what I had in there. So the fees ended up not working well. So unless you're like a really big spender, but I will say I think something like that is good to get people thinking about savings and looking at how much money's going in there. And if it's the only way you're kind of getting into this world, I think they're good for that. But I would watch out on the fee structure for ones where you do have to pay a fee.
Great, thanks. So let's move on to our next question, and that's about role models. Who are some good savings role models for adults and/or kids? And Ricky, I'll let you tackle that one first.
And this one may be a little more difficult to answer. You can say that you get a lot of your spending habits from siblings, family members, friends, those surrounding you. That doesn't mean that those are always good role models, but it means that that's where you adopt a lot of your spending habits. So I think you're going to get information from them, but it's wise to maybe use that rule of 3 that Dr. O'Neill had described, of making sure that you're doing research and looking around and making sure that those habits that you're adopting are actually going to be good for you instead of detrimental.
Elaine, do you have role models that you think people should look out for savings?
Well, I think, as Katie mentioned earlier, there are a lot of personal bloggers who share their savings stories. I always caution people that different circumstances dictate different reactions from people. And so to be careful about who you're choosing as your financial role model. I think you want to look to those people that are closest to you that seem to be doing a good job of managing their finances, and find out what some of their tips are. Sometimes it may be as easy as the break room where you work, and you find out that someone always eats their lunch in, where as you maybe only eat your lunch there once a week, and you start some conversation. Well, why don't you ever go out for lunch? And you start the conversation and find out what other people's savings and spending habits are. I think savings and spendings, these are habits. Just like we have a habit of getting up in the morning and brushing our teeth, we want to establish good financial habits. And we want to look at the people around us who may be, or maybe have developed some of those good habits. And of course, there are lots of national people that you can follow. You could follow Dr. Barb O'Neill, and she has lots of great financial information. Our Dr. Michael Gutter does some wonderful things, as well as others around the country. But I always caution people, if your role model is going to charge you a fee to share that advice, just exercise caution and decide if that fee structure is worth it.
Katie, who's your savings role model, or personally?
Yeah, I think I got lucky. My dad was a really great role model for me growing up, and we definitely did the fill the jar of coins and take to the bank. But I remember even in high school him sitting down with me and like showing me his finances, and it actually was spurred by my grandmother had passed away, and he didn't have a very good handle at all on her finances, and he sort of sat me down and was like, you need to know all this stuff. So I really got an idea of what he's doing and how much he had saved and how much he didn't. So I had this really amazing role model, and I think the more open we can be with finances, the easier that is. I do think it's interesting when you think of role models. It's hard, even at America Saves, we've been like, oh, we got to get a celebrity to talk about savings. But it's hard with celebrities because, you feel like, oh, well, they make lots of money. What do they need to know about savings? So I think really Elaine hit it, where if we all can, we who are good savers and live in this world, if we can just talk more openly about it in the lunchroom, at the water cooler, on Facebook, anywhere it is people are, and just kind of show yourself as a good role model. Like, hey, I did this today. I opened a 529 for my child, and he's 6 months old. Like, just these habits that other people think, oh, I haven't done that, or I need to do that. So I think being a good role model yourself will, create more role models for others.
Barb, where'd you learn your savings habit?
Oh, my parents were both very frugal, savers. My mom particularly, I called her a financially capable woman and named a scholarship, a mini grant after her after she passed. So I learned a lot of skills just by observing my parents, and I think that's true. There's been some research that indicates that behaviors not only related to finances but also to health behaviors can be what they call contagious, and your circle of friends and family are very positive influences on you, even if they don't necessarily live like right next door or in the same community. If you have regular contact with people, their behaviors can rub off either in a good way or in a bad way. So certainly you want to hang around people who have good health and financial behaviors, and people who can influence you and people who can support you, because the last thing you want is to set some savings goals and then have others around you kind of sabotage your savings efforts or belittle you because you're not spending the way you used to or something like that. So you need people to support you and to serve as mentors.
Just want to remind everyone you're watching the America Saves Challenge Twitter chat and Google Hangout on air. We've got more questions to come for our panel of experts. Before we get to that, we were just talking about role models. And Eric, what are people online saying about who are good savings role models?
Our tweet chat participants are echoing the things that the panel has mentioned, and several have mentioned parents as role models and grandparents as role models as well. Rob Weber mentioned that teachers and educators can also be great role models, and so it's important to keep in mind, and particularly the influence they have on our young children. So I think the responses are tracking directly with what everyone else has been saying.
I saw a tweet come through, kind of roll by as we're talking here, so I apologize for not crediting the tweeter, but about sort of a what am I trying to say? Generational thing. There we go. About people who grew up in the Depression being better savers or better role models of saving. Are you observing any generational differences in terms of how people approach savings today? Elaine, are you seeing any of that?
Well, I think some of it's generational. I think if we look at people who lived through the Depression, they obviously are very, very frugal for the most part. Boomers, there is a wide variation there in terms of whether or not they got the savings message or the spending message. And but I find among young adults, what we see more and more, and even with the teens that we work in with through our Living on My Own program, is that they really are pretty clueless coming in about those savings and spending habits. And so if we can, talk around the water cooler or talk in the car or whatever, I think there's a huge disconnect with most of the young people that I have been in contact with. Not all, but the ones who come to class,
Barb, is that your experience with your students at Rutgers?
I find that students vary, as any age group would be, and some of them are spenders, some of them are savers. About half of them don't have credit cards, so they're not being tempted in that regard. So I do find that they don't carry a lot of cash on them. They tend to swipe debit cards a lot. That's their preferred method of spending. Some of them are really good savers, though. As I talk to them over the semester, many of them are getting some really good advice at home.
So if you fall into the spender category, what are some ways that you can start to find some money to save, Katie?
If you're not a good saver, how to find money to, is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. Or even if you are a good saver and you want to save more, I guess I shouldn't
Got
single
it.
out.
Yeah. I really like the idea of once, if you're a good saver, I think me and my husband fall into this a lot, where we have our savings account online and we have a kind of an online account with different buckets where we save there, but it's sort of like, what's the next thing I should be doing? Do we have CDs? Do we have savings bonds? Should we be putting them in different places? And I think that's a really great problem to have when you have money, a little money saved away, and you have that emergency fund, and you're like, now I have extra money. This is just money for my financial future and security, and what do I want to do with that? So I think these are really exciting things. So I think just learning, more about what you can do with your money, where, like Barb O'Neill was saying earlier, where can you actually try to find a return on your money these days? So if it is an app that's helping you learn about the stock market, or a new kind of savings account that you just haven't been in, I think it's fun to experiment with some of these new things, and hopefully that'll be a little motivation for those who aren't saving, or even for those who are saving, to kind of diversify, spread it out, and save in new spots.
Ricky, what about the person who maybe is looking at this or listening to us now and going, I really want to save, I know it's important, I'm hearing all this, but where's the money going to come from, right? So the check comes in every 2 weeks or whatever, and it goes out just as fast. What are some strategies that a person like that might use to find the money to save?
Absolutely. It's a great idea to start small. So anything you can save is a step in the right direction. The University of Florida has a publication called My Spending Leaks. So it's a few-page document that can help you look at your spending habits, either daily, weekly, monthly, and find out where your spending leaks really are. So if there's extra money that you can save, whether you quit drinking sodas out of the soda machine at work, cold turkey, or whether you limit yourself to maybe 1 a day versus the 5 that you're normally drinking. We had a long conversation when we moved into a new house, my husband and I, about what kind of cable we were going to purchase. So that was a needs versus wants conversation, and my husband is a huge football fan, and we looked at different football packages on our cable and what the options were, and we finally settled on something that we were both comfortable with. So we actually wound up saving a little bit of money on our cable bill, so that was another spending leak for us. Now, if it was up to me, I don't think that we'd have television at all, but but we had to make a compromise for a happy marriage. So just looking at those spending leaks and what your habits are, whether it's taking your lunch to work or maybe not eating out, using a coupon. Some of those good, positive financial habits can actually be found on the America Saves Financial Challenge online. So we've got some daily positive financial habits that people can practice if they want to sign up for that challenge and learn what those are.
Elaine, do any other ideas for finding money to save occur to you as Ricky was sharing some of those?
Well, definitely. I think one of the things that I've adopted is that if you do go out to eat, you drink water. You don't order coffee or soda. I mean, that is one way that you can cut expenses. If you have a particular habit, whether it's lattes or French fries or smoking or Budweiser or whatever your habit is, just if we take the time to figure out how much is this costing me, can I do without it 1 day, 2 days, a week? So looking at that, I also love to visit consignment stores or thrift stores to find clothing and things. So those are just some things that I have personally done that I think anybody can do.
Barb, I imagine you talked about sort of planning to save and having a goal and being very intentional about it. So I guess what I'm thinking is if you follow some of these strategies, like let's say ordering water when you go out to eat, and you're going to save that whatever it is, $1.75 or $2.50 or whatever it is for having a soda. How do you make that actually into savings and not just more money to spend on other things?
Oh, I am so glad you asked because I wanted to get this in. So you gave me a perfect segue. There are challenges that are going on right now. So I started the 52-week money challenge on the first full week in January. I think it was January 4th. And this week we started as part of the America Saves challenge. I don't know if you can see this. My first week's deposit on the 5-week challenge. So in 5 weeks, we're encouraging people to save enough per day so that they'll have $250 at the end of the 5-week challenge on March 28th. So just to reiterate to people, there's still time to save to enroll in the America Saves Challenge. We started on Sunday, but we allow people up to 7 days to enter and to enter their data once they're enrolled. And it's free, and we're going to have some prizes at the end. So I think strategies like that where you can kind of ramp up slowly, where you have, on my challenge, for my money challenge, I've got this calendar that I printed out from Ricky's website. And it has the 52 weeks of the year. And so every time I make a deposit on Sunday of each week, I cross off the date and figure out the amount that I have. So I have $36 saved. It may not be sound like much now, but by the time week 52 comes around and I'm making my $52 deposit, the last one in the challenge, I'll have $1,378. So that's pretty impressive. Even the $250 in 5 weeks is impressive, and we're starting it off at $25 this week, and then the last week will be $75, so you kind of ramp it up. I'm a big fan of ramping up too. You know, start small, and then as you get the wherewithal to be able to save more, you can kind of escalate your savings and save more when you can.
I saw a tweet roll by and that mentioned maybe if you're planning on saving money by cutting something out, not to cut it out cold turkey, but to reduce it.
Right.
Katie, is that something behaviorally that you'd have a comment on, good or bad, I guess? Do people, if they cut it out cold turkey, is it harder to kind of stick to that behavior? I threw that at Katie, but maybe Katie's not ready for that. Maybe.
I don't know behaviorally. I'm sure there are studies on it. I feel like sometimes cold turkey really works for people, and then I feel like sometimes that just doesn't. I know for me, I don't like cutting things out all the way. I like the idea of like, oh, on Friday I get to splurge, or if I'm taking my lunch every day, I like having one day where we get to eat out. Someone was saying something about making the marriage work. My husband would eat lunch out every day if he could, and so we've had to come to this agreement of, okay, X amount of days we don't. So I think being able to cheat, if you want to call it, sometimes is good.
Barb, did you have thoughts on that?
Okay, so I was trying to tweet at the same time. So your question again? Sorry about that.
We were talking about should you cut something out cold turkey, or is it better just to reduce it?
Absolutely not. I mean, we have a whole program in Cooperative Extension called Small Steps to Health and Wealth, and we talk about kind of a strategy called it's like the scaling down strategy, where you kind of ramp down. So Elaine was talking about before, like thrift shops and stuff. If you can kind of visualize a staircase where you might have like a high-end department store on the top, and then maybe a mid-range department store, and maybe you get to a discounting kind of store like a Walmart kind of category, and then maybe your consignment shops and your thrift shops. So you can actually get the things that you want, but get them at a price point that you can afford. And I would just mention that this time of year, going into next month, many thrift shops around the country, including the one that I volunteer at, will have bag sales. And so we literally give people a pretty big plastic bag that you can fit in maybe 30 items, depending on their weight. You know, if it's a coat, obviously it's going to weigh a little bit more. But we do it at the end of the season, so it'll be, you know, March for the winter clothing, maybe September or so for the summer clothing, and you fill up the entire bag for $5. So you're getting jackets and skirts and pants and blouses and t-shirts and everything for like 25 cents a piece. I mean, you can't beat it. So that way you can still have clothing. I mean, if you like clothes, you don't want to give up anything, but maybe just find a different price point. So think about they call it the step-down method, and Professor Alina Johnson out in Utah State University came up with that strategy where you just ramp down your spending. You still get what you want, but you find a place where you can afford it better.
Great. So, Eric, we've been talking about ways to find money to save. What are the folks on the Twitter chat sharing?
All kinds of great tips and advice from the people out in the Twitter sphere. Some of them, many of them have already been mentioned, cutting back on, you know, expensive items that you maybe don't use. Several mentioned cable TV expenses, eating out less, taking your lunch more to work, or and I know some of these have already been discussed. There also were some comments about ways to generate some extra dollars. Simple things such as returning soda bottles or aluminum cans, and then even looking at doing yard sales to kind of get some return on some things that maybe you no longer need. So
Great.
Lots of great comments.
Thanks, Eric. You're watching the America Saves Challenge Twitter chat and Google Hangout. I'm Bob Birch. Reminder again, our guests are Dr. Barbara O'Neill from Rutgers University, Ricky McWilliams and Elaine Courtney from the University of Florida, and Katie Bryan from the America Saves program out in Idaho. We have Eric Anderson. He's monitoring our Twitter chat and sharing some of the things that you are tweeting with the hashtag EXASChat. And I hope you'll join that conversation as we enter into sort of the last portion here of our Hangout. Let's move on to the next question. That is, how do people's attitudes and personality traits affect their savings behavior? And Barbara, I'm going to start with you on that one. How do our attitudes and personalities play into our savings habits?
Well, research has found that people who are optimistic, people who are disciplined, people who are focused tend to be better at saving. Just yesterday, the America Saves folks issued, I believe it's their 8th savings survey. Katie can back me up on that one. And they found that the people who have savings plans, who have some kind of future focus, that they know what they're saving for, those people are a whole lot more likely to be successful savers. So it all starts in your brain. It doesn't really start in your bank account or your wallet. It kind of starts in your brain, having kind of a conscientiousness about saving, feeling that it's important, knowing what you want in the future, and being willing to sacrifice some spending today to get something better that you want in the future.
So, Katie, tell us more about the survey and maybe how it relates to this question. That's interesting, that the findings of the America Saves survey.
Yeah, no, so we did find that those with a plan are twice as likely to save than those without a plan. And I should have the stats in front of me, but I'm pulling them up. But it was one of the good things we saw with the survey this year was there were no reductions in our savings indicators. So if 50% knew their net worth last year, you know, the same amount or more knew it this year. So we saw this trend of people doing much better in their savings. So I have people who reported making good, excellent progress meeting their savings need. 57% said they were making good progress if they had a plan. Only 22% said they were making good progress on their savings if they didn't have a plan. One of the bigger ones, having enough emergency savings. 82% of those who said they had sufficient emergency savings had a plan, and for those who didn't have a plan, only 48% of them said they had enough emergency savings. So there were really big differences between having a plan and not having a plan, which seems just like such a simple thing, like to have a spending plan for us who are in this world. But it just takes sitting down and writing out what you want to do, and it really will help you be a better saver.
So Elaine, we're talking about people's attitudes and personality traits, and I guess some of us might think, well, I just don't have a savings personality, so I guess I won't save. So are there sort of ways that you can, Barb said it starts in your brain, so how do we get it started?
Well, I think, let me go back just a minute, and all of us do have sort of a money personality, just like our overall personality. And I think it's important for us to recognize our personality, but also other family members, our spouse, significant other, whoever we might be having some mutual financial products with, if you will, sharing a house, whatever it might be. And understanding that not everyone has the same money philosophy or money personality that I do. Okay, I'm the one that's going to pick up the penny off of the nasty floor and save it. I'm not going to walk by that penny. So understanding a little bit about what your personality is, but also the personality of those people around you and what their attitude is about savings. If I have the attitude, a penny saved is a penny earned, and my husband has the attitude, you only live once, let's spend it now, then it's important for us to recognize each other's money personality, and as Ricky was saying, talking about cable TV, that we work on compromises, because we do know that those money personality differences are a key figure in breakups, breakups of relationships. So even though you may have the money personality, if you will, of a spender rather than the saver, that doesn't mean that you should give up, but rather to continue to learn, adopt some of the things that we've talked about today. Setting a goal, starting small, make a plan, save automatically, and developing some of those habits, so that we do see some success as we start on this savings journey. And as we start to see that we have a little bit of success, then before we know it, we're having more and more success.
Well, we are running a little bit low on time. We're getting to the end of this, and we have 3 questions that those of you who are participating in the Twitter chat are answering about your own savings experiences, and I want to make sure that we save some time to get to some of those answers that you're sharing on the Twitter chat. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into to one of the last questions here, and start with you, Ricky, and that is, what are some good tips to make savings automatic? I know that we've mentioned, making saving automatic a few times during our conversation here. So how do we start doing that?
Most employers will provide some support for direct deposit. So again, going back to what was mentioned earlier, if you have the majority of your paycheck put into a savings account or a checking account that you have access to, that you use to access for transactions via your debit card, a checkbook. I know they're antiquated, but people still use them every now and then. Maybe have an account at a different financial institution that you can have a second direct deposit go to, whether it's a percentage that you've decided on, or again, like Katie said, a specific amount of money. Maybe you've just got $10 or $15 or $50 a paycheck that is directly deposited into an account that you don't normally have as easily access to. So making sure that you add that to your monthly expenses, your savings plan, your pay it yourself first bill. I love warm weather, so if I wanted to, write it down in my monthly expenses that I'm going to put my $50 a month towards my tropical vacation fund, whatever you want to call it, something to incentivize you, something to make sure that you don't touch it. Where I'm coming from is that 5-week money challenge that Dr. O'Neill had mentioned. That keeps me going to work every day in these cold, cold, cold days that we're all experiencing. So I'm getting out of bed every morning and going to work so that I know I can make that money and put it into my savings account so that I can take a tropical summer 90-degree weather vacation this summer.
Katie, do you have tips to add about making saving automatic?
Yeah, I think the other no-brainer place, if your employer offers a work-sponsored retirement plan, so 401k or sub IRA or whatever they have set up, just taking advantage of that. So I mean, we're discussing this now. If if there's not a default, how much should you be putting in, and what are you doing? So I mean, I think I talked earlier about not doing percentages of your pay, but I feel like this is one place where if you get a raise at the end of the year and it's 1% and you don't, you're not have all this debt or something, go ahead and put that towards retirement. Roll it into there, and especially if you're getting a match, if your employer is giving you 5%, if you're putting 5%, make sure you're putting in the entire 5% or you're leaving money on the table. So I think that's a super easy way. And if you don't have a retirement plan at work, I know there's new myra.gov is a new way. There are Roth IRAs. There are other ways to do it. It might be a little harder to automate those. But there are definitely ways you can set up the automatic savings for retirement.
Barb, do you have other tips to add about making saving automatic?
Sure. Well, I think we've covered some of the really good ones. Obviously, if you can do any saving through your employer, that's great, and particularly if you can get the match, that free money that Katie was talking about is just wonderful. A couple other things that I'd throw in the hopper is through your tax return. I'm not a big fan anymore of getting a big refund, and it has nothing to do with having an interest-free loan to the government, because you're not getting that much interest on savings accounts these days anyway. It's all about the identity theft, and it's rampant in this country, and the one way you can protect yourself from having your money stolen is not to have that much money to steal. So I'm not a big fan of a big refund, but if you have a small refund, you could use that Form 8888. That's part of the tax return, and you can actually designate up to 3 different places to purchase, to put your money into savings. So it could be in various savings accounts, or it could be savings bonds. They give you different options that you can choose, so that would be one. And then as you move into investing from savings, let's assume you've got your emergency fund down pat and you're ready to move on and maybe earn a higher potential return. Many mutual funds have what they call automatic investment plans, and they may have a trade name to describe it, but it basically allows you to designate a certain amount of money at a regular time interval and have money transferred from your checking account to buy mutual fund shares. So maybe you would fill out an application and you would say on the 1st of every month, transfer $100 from your checking to buy your fund shares. And it's a good way to build up your investments over time.
Great, thanks, Barb. Well, we posed some questions to our Twitter audience about their savings habits and saving successes. Eric, do you have any good responses to share about those questions? And we started with, do you have any good saving success stories? So with a couple minutes left, those might be some of the ones that might be inspirational to some of us who are savings challenged, like myself.
There were several responses where people identified incorporating the strategies we'd heard earlier about cutting back on, these recurring expenses like eating out or buying coffee out. Some of the uses that people have put their savings towards, really some amazing stories about what they were able to use cash to pay for, including people's honeymoons and vacations. One respondent mentioned college tuition for her son being paid for with cash. So a lot of great savings stories out there. Several were able to buy used cars and new cars And then when people looked at, we asked about what they're saving for now to pay with cash as opposed to paying with credit. People mentioned cars again. Others mentioned paying for college education for their children. And then in one case, they mentioned the need to build up or rebuild their emergency fund, which is always probably the first thing that needs to be taken care of. And if it needs to be used, then that's what happens. But when you have the chance, then start rebuilding again.
Great. Thanks so much, Eric. Well, we've come to the end of our hour. Thanks so much for joining us for the Google Hangout portion of this American Saves Challenge Twitter chat. Of course, on Twitter, this conversation can just keep on going. Just look for the hashtag EXASChat and share some of your savings experiences and questions as well. If you want to get involved in the America Saves Financial Challenge, a couple of different URLs for you to follow. You can find these in the Twitter chat as well. But go ahead and check out bit.ly/moneychallenge2015. And also visit the eXtension Personal Finance website, extension.org/personal_finance, and the America Saves program at www.americasaves.org. Funding for this chat was provided by an America Saves Week mini grant to eXtension from the Consumer Federation of America with funding from the Bank of America Charitable Foundation. Thanks again for joining us, everybody. Thanks to our expert panel, and we hope to get you saving money and to continue to converse with us about the America Saves Challenge and personal finance through eXtension. Thanks again, everybody, and have a good day.